Okay, it looks like it's 10 o'clock here. People are joining up. I think we'll give it, as usual, just give it a few more minutes to allow a few more extra people to join up, but maybe in about 2 or 3 minutes we'll come back on and get started. Talk to you then.
We'll be starting in a few minutes.
You're in it now. It works with the web client.
Okay.
I mean,
Weird the web client lurks in the... means...
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I think it's time to get started. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. I do have something shared there. If you're joined only with audio, you may want to look at joining through the computer there as well. I see a few people have called in there. We're excited about this release. It has some really cool features that Paul will be showing you in a little bit. He's going to do a live demo as we get started here. First of all, for those of you that are new to Attendant Pro or haven't seen it before, I'm going to be going over a little bit, a few minutes of what Attendant Pro is, kind of where it came from, where it's going type of thing, and what needs it fills. And then Paul is going to do a quick overview, like 5-10 minutes of the general features of Attendant Pro, and then get into specifically the new features that were added in the latest release here about 2 weeks ago. I went live there. IM is open. We have Matt Landis on the line here as well. It's going to be looking at Q&A on the chat. So just whenever you have a question as we go along, throw it into the chat window, and we can either answer it right away through the IM window, or we can answer it later audio as well. Towards the end, we're going to then open it up so that you can unmute yourself and ask questions as well once we're done with the demo. So let's get started. And Matt, are you on there?
Yes, I am. Yeah, good morning, everyone, and glad to have you here. So go ahead, Wendell, take it away.
Sounds good. So Attendant Pro, anybody that's worked with Skype for Business a lot knows that, well, way back they had the 2010 Attendant console, and now they have, then they didn't continue that, and we realized that nobody was building a proper attendant console for Link at the time, now Skype for Business. And so we set out to do it with some of these key guiding principles or key design principles that we kept in mind as we designed it, as we built it out further. And I'll go through those a little bit. So one of the things that we kept as a top priority is simple. It is easy to use, easy to learn. It takes literally 1 minute to install, no servers needed, and you're ready to go. And all the features that we'll show you here today are included in that. It's one price, one license, easy licensing, easy install, easy to use, everything. We kept it simple to work with. The reason we originally were looking for this is because of efficiency. The standard client works great for the average worker, but not for the receptionist, attendant, operator, the person that's doing high call volume. And so our number one thing was efficiency. And we've added a lot of things, but we still come back to that one-click transfer. And where there's more complex call flows, as few clicks as we can make it, as easy and as efficient and fast as we can make it. And Paul will show how that one-click transfer works. Your call comes in, answers is automatically in transfer mode, one click on the person you want to send it to, and it's off. So efficiency is a wonderful thing. A thing for something to consider on that, if you could buy your end users a coffee that would guarantee to make them more efficient, more productive, and happier, how much would you spend on that each day? This Attendant Pro does those things, makes them more efficient, makes it easier for them, makes their morale up because of how nice it is to work with. Well, you'll see it later if you haven't seen it already. Familiar is one of our design principles as well, where we keep it looking like Skype for Business. In this case is the picture I'm showing here. The icons, the font, the colors, everything as close as we can so that it feels like a continuation like it is, rather than some separate system that's in there. It's using Skype for Business, and it looks like it's using Skype for Business. And one of the things we're announcing here is a Teams interface, which Paul will be showing later, that we're also working on that. Trusted. So large companies, small companies in over 50 countries are using Attendant Pro, and it's been tested and tried around the world. So we're trusted around the world, and also powerful. So beyond the simple and easy and efficient, we also wanted it to be able to be more powerful, to give you more options than you have available in the standard client, and more options than to fit what these receptionists and these busy operators and attendants need. So some of the things, shared contact notes between multiple receptionists, call recording, integration with CRM and Exchange, and there's just a lot of things we do that increase that user's efficiency. And now we're adding more of those powerful features. So some of the things we're introducing in this release is the new features we have, add things around the simple and easy, and add things around the powerful feature set. So Paul is going to show these. That's a list. We're not going to go through all those. The ones in bold there are the ones we're going to especially demo and look at. And but there's a lot of things in there. If anybody wants a one-on-one demo later to go through the things that we can't cover in this meeting, we can gladly set that up. But I think with that, Paul, I am going to turn it over to you and let you take the screen share. Yeah, there you go. Take it away. Show us a little bit what Attendant Pro is basically, and then especially dig into these new features.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Wendell. Hello, everyone. I work with Wendell here on the Attendant Pro side of Landis Technologies, and as you said, I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of the basics of Attendant Pro. As he just got done mentioning there, one of the key drives for us is simplicity, and I'll demonstrate just a little bit how we accomplish that. One of the biggest issues that we seem to consistently see with a reception position in particular is sometimes there's users that have been using it for maybe, let's say, even a few years or 10 years, or they're used to the phone system that they've been using, and change can be a little bit difficult, in particular for some people more so than others, but that's something that we often run into. Even going back a few years, you're used to picking up the phone, pressing the extension, away the phone call goes. Very simple, very easy to understand that. Well, with Skype for Business, a lot of new possibilities came along, but unfortunately for the receptionist, there's a lot of different snags to workflow. There's right-click, hover, drop-down menus. A lot of that really confused and really hindered a receptionist's ability to quickly transfer calls. So with Attendant Pro, we're trying to bring back that feeling, and I think you'll see that we're bringing back that feeling of one click, it's gone, and yet you still have all the added features that Skype for Business brings right at your fingertips and more with Attendant Pro. So I'll go through and show you some of that, and hopefully you can see that simplicity shine through. So as he mentioned, the transfer is something that makes up a large portion of what a receptionist does. So we want that to be really easy. Incoming calls, we want to be able to answer, and we want to be able to click on someone and have that call disappear and it's gone. Very easy to execute the basic transfer, whether that's a blind transfer that will ring at their extension and go to voicemail if they don't pick up. We can also do that same action with a safe transfer where it comes back to me if there's no answer. So there's a lot of different possibilities for transferring to someone in a very efficient manner. Same goes for talking to them first with like a consult transfer, where we want to talk to our contact before we pass a call through to them. I'm going to pass this through to one of my demo users. It calls their contact. They pick up. We can fill them in on all the details of this phone call here that's waiting to talk to them. And when they agree to answer that phone call, we can just press the button again and it cleanly passes it through. So everything in Attendant Pro is very visual, easy for them to see incoming calls, see the caller ID, see what's happening with the phone calls. And it's easy to see what's going on, and that's always very important. Of course, contact groups can easily be managed. You can easily create lists for yourself to organize groups in whatever way you wanted to keep all the important features or important contacts close at hand for easy transferring. Easy to find who you're looking for as well. Some of you may be in companies with massive global address books. Very easy to simply type a name, results populate instantly, and I can quickly transfer to a contact in my global address book just by clicking on the phone icon there. So even if you don't have extensive contact groups, it's easy to find who you're looking for in your global address book, and easy to manage that as well. Maybe you don't have a particular name. Maybe you only want to see managers in a certain department. Well, quickly you can have a list in front of you of relevant contacts and easily transfer to someone you see is available. So very quick run through it. Then there's a few, that's the basic answer and transfer to your contact. A lot of other built-in features into Attendant Pro. And again, these are just kind of highlighting features that have been a part of Attendant Pro for a while now. This isn't necessarily new with this particular release. We'll get to that in a moment. Another feature, easily transfer to anyone's voicemail, easily transfer to someone's cell phone or mobile phone with one click. No need to type up a mobile number or anything like that. With one click, we can send a call through to someone's mobile phone. Emailing a callback reminder. This is a pain point for a lot of receptionists. That caller that doesn't trust that their voicemail is going to be returned for whatever reason. So they'll say, just have him call me back when he gets off the phone. Well, instead of the receptionist writing that information down on a sticky note and hand delivering or whatever their workflow may be, with one click, they can now open this message that is addressed to that contact, and it's automatically going to pull in all the caller ID information from the current call. Phone number, date and time, the name, of course, everything is there, so I can just hit send, and my contact with practically one click of the mouse has all the information he needs to return that phone call. So a lot of aids built into the workflow there. Another thing that Wendell referenced briefly is the caller information panel that I just turned on here in the top right that can be enabled if it's useful for your environment, that allows you to tie in directly to CRM and allows you to, as soon as a phone call comes in, see this data that we may have on this phone number in our CRM database. Really pulls together dynamic CRM and Skype for Business in a way that we really don't see with any other product on the market. It's very seamless. For a receptionist, obviously CRM is a large program. You know, there's a lot of information there. You're signing in, you're searching for who you're looking for and all that. It can be a little bit massive for a receptionist to manage that, especially with handling a large volume of calls. What this does is, without ever leaving Attendant Pro now, I can have that CRM data right at my fingertips and not only see it, but also have the ability to read and write. So with one click, I can make a note of a phone call record that would save to their account. I can make a standard note that would save to that person's CRM account. I can see what company they're with, their email address. All that information is there, and it doesn't require me to leave Attendant Pro and make CRM very usable for a receptionist. So that's something that is a heavily requested feature, and it's built right into Attendant Pro. So that's a very, very abbreviated run through of some of the features that have been a part of Attendant Pro for a number of years now. If you have any interest in seeing a more in-depth demo of the product as a whole, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to set up a one-on-one demo so we can accurately kind of hear what your environment needs are and show you the features that would apply there. So I guess with that, I think, Wendell, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of want to go into what we've released with the latest edition.
Yes, let's jump into some of the new features. I'm excited to show them off.
Okay.
Go for it.
So one of the flagship features of the latest release here, I think it's been out about a week and a half or 2 weeks now, is a feature that we call IM Consult Transfer. So let me just backtrack here, and I'll show you the Consult Transfer. I referenced that just a moment ago. Consult Transfer is probably one of the more frequently used transfer modes by our clients that simply allows me to talk to one of my contacts before passing a call through to them. So using the Consult Transfer, I can reach out to one of my contacts. It will simply put the caller on hold while I am calling that contact. And I did this a moment ago. I'm just going to reiterate that. Then when the contact picks up, we can fill them in on all the details. We can give them a heads up. We can tell them, this guy's calling you back. You talked to him yesterday. And when our contact agrees to take that phone call, we're just pressing the Consult Transfer button again, and that call is cleanly passed through and we drop out. So a nice, easy way to hand off a call using Consult Transfer. Now, one of the things we've added is what we call IM Consult Transfer. So essentially what we're doing is that same exact action, except instead of using voice to check with our contact, we're going to use IM. And we're going to do this in a very non-obtrusive way and very clearly communicate what's going on. So there's a button there, IM Consult Transfer. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to select this user. Automatically, it has sent this user an instant message saying, hey, can you take a call? Here's who it is. Press 0 for no, and it just rejects it. Press 1 for yes, and press 2 to send this call to voicemail. And so what we can do now is I can just place that call on hold. I don't have to worry about it. It waits for a response from whoever it was sent to, and it can automatically reply. Let me see if I can pull this up on my other machine so I can properly demonstrate this. It will behave according to the action that he says. So if he says 1 for yes, I can take the call, it will automatically transfer it through to him, and I don't need to worry about it. So a couple of areas where this may be useful. Sometimes you have maybe someone that's working out of a conference room for the day. You're not sure if they're in the middle of a project. You're not sure if you should be intruding and contacting them. This is a nice subtle way to notify them of a call that they have, and they can then decide what they want to do. Another very popular use case is when maybe you have someone that's on the other line. They're in a phone call. We're not sure, how important it, maybe they were expecting a phone call, but now the call came in and they're in another call. Well, we can easily, just using the IM Consult transfer, we can ping them. It's not too obtrusive. They can see it there while they're in the other call, and then they can decide if it's something that they want to wrap up the phone call and get back to them, or if they want to take that phone call, they can decide that using the IM Consult transfer. And maybe they reply with something else. Let me just type a message. We can see right from inside of Attendant Pro what they reply with, and we can reply back. So the messages, maybe they send something other than 0, 1, or 2. We can see those notes coming right through on the current call, and we can behave accordingly with that. So feel free to type questions that you may have on in the conversation there on the chat on the left. Matt will be happy to answer those, and also at the end we'll open it up to questions. But that's just a brief look at the IM Consult transfer feature.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here and say that feature is we put a lot of effort in to make it really seamless, and essentially what it does is makes consult transfer one click, and the attendant console takes care of the rest. So really slick feature, and a great demo there.
So one of the other things I want to add on that is, I think Matt put it in there, it's like Call Park. One of the things that have continued to be asked, of course, on-prem, if you have an on-premises implementation, you have Call Park available, but in Office 365, Call Park is not available, and some people were missing that and asking for that. This is a very good way to do that same thing, where you're parking the call for somebody, and they can pick it up when they want to. But it adds the fact that not only is it a call park, but it's a call park for a certain person. So it's a great way to do that. That adds
excellent
call parking.
Point. Yeah, excellent point.
All right, I'm going to move on to another feature that we've added. So I've turned on this contact card here at the bottom. This is a window that you can turn on or off as you wish. It simply displays more in-depth information for any one of your contacts. This is something that we've had built into Attendant Pro for quite some time, so that really hasn't changed. We have kind of changed the format, and one of the things that we've added, so we have these tabs here under the contact card. We have related contacts that shows who their manager is, who their assistants are, who else is in their department, things like that. We also have a tab here for calendar, that without ever having to open a calendar or anything, we can see, take a glance at someone's calendar and see what their schedule looks like. So having that information right here at the bottom can often be real helpful for a receptionist that is, trying to decide what, if the contact's available, if now is a good time, they can just reference that calendar. Of course, we have also had the pop-up calendar. You can open a calendar in another window. It doesn't look like I have access to that one, but you can open a calendar in another window for any contact if you wish to. All right, so another key feature that we've added is the ability to see history. This is one that we've been asked for, and a lot of receptionists are referencing often. So we wanted to be able to see history for previous calls. So up in the top right-hand corner, there's a little clock there, and if we click on that, it'll switch over to show all of our previous incoming and outgoing phone calls, so we can see all of our history. We can call those people back or whatever we chose to do with them. So this, you hung up with someone and you wanted to reference their details, you can click on any call, see how long you were connected. Any caller ID information will be available there to you for you to see as well. In addition, I showed you earlier the CRM information. We have that here in the history as well. So I can click on the history tab and I can see the CRM information that was pulled in for that particular person. So maybe it's after the fact now and I want to make a note that it'll save to their CRM record. I can come into history and just click to complete that as well, complete that note, whatever I wanted to do there. There's also the option, and I don't know that I have a recording saved, but if we had recorded the phone call, obviously call recording is built into Attendant Pro. Right down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, we have this this button here where we can start a recording for any type of phone call.
That is in behind the pictures for me. It probably is for a lot of other people. Would it be possible to move that up in the middle to show where that recording button is?
Let me see if I can do that. Maybe that'll show a little bit easier there. So I pressed to click start recording, and I am now recording this phone conversation. So built into Attendant Pro, and it has been for a while now, is a very simple, either automatic or you can have it set to as on demand like I have it here. Just a real basic, simple call recording functionality. So if you want that ability to record phone calls occasionally, Attendant Pro has a great solution like that built in. I can click to stop that recording again as I wish. So now one of the things with this call history tab, we can look back on our previous phone calls, and if we do have a recording, here now you see the option that I can play that recording back. So I not only can see their CRM database, CRM information, but I can also see any recordings that I may have had on file for that person. They're going to display right there within Attendant Pro. So all the information we need to either return a call, pass along a note to someone is going to be right there. In addition, I showed you earlier the email callback reminder where you can send to your contact an email letting them know that they missed a call. Well, we can also go back and do that after the fact. So let's say there was a call from earlier this morning that I just remembered I need to remind Wendell to call back. I can right-click on that call in my history, send an email callback reminder. It'll open that email again with all the information, and I just simply select who it goes to and hit send, and I can remind someone that they need to call that person back again. So the history tab, very useful, very easy to use. You don't have to go over into Outlook's conversation history anymore. Everything you need is going to be right there inside of Attendant Pro with one click at the top of your screen. Wendell, how am I doing? What else should I be?
I think we should definitely hit on the teams,
yes.
The teams look and feel, as well as kind of where we're headed with that.
Absolutely. So obviously, anyone that's anywhere close to Skype for Business has heard Teams floating around, and then in the last number of months here, that's been a huge push for Microsoft, and it seems to be the direction that we're all headed. So one of the things that we've announced with our latest release is the interface for Microsoft Teams. So I have switched it over there, and now you will notice the Microsoft Teams interface for Attendant Pro. The functionality is still there. The call flow, everything still remains. What you're seeing now is obviously the Teams skin. You have your Teams along the side. You have your different contact buttons along the side. But now also here in the center, we're pulling in Teams lists along with Skype for Business contact groups. So they will coincide side by side, and it allows us to complete transfers to Teams users. So from a front desk perspective, obviously as a lot of companies are going to make this changeover to Microsoft Teams, there's going to be a lot of questions as to timing, how that transition is going to take place. From the Attendant Pro side of things and from your front desk perspective, we want to make sure that the incoming phone line and those that are answering the incoming phone line see as little interruption as possible. And that's why the efficiency, the call flow, everything is going to look exactly the same for them. It's simply a matter of going into the user interface and switching it over to look like Microsoft Teams and to read the Teams client. Other than that, your front desk really is not going to notice any interruption, and even something as simple as the learning curve of learning Microsoft Teams is really not something that, in order to answer phone calls, they're going to need to go through at the front desk. You simply switch the skin over. It's going to switch it to reading the Teams client, but other than that, the layout, the functionality is going to be in place for them there. So as you kind of mull and contemplate what that's going to look like for your company, something you can keep in mind is going to be really easy is the reception desk. And maybe Wendell or Matt, I don't know if you wanted to chime in with any other input for what we're seeing in the future of Teams, or any other thoughts that you had on Teams there. Some of you might have a little bit of a better handle on that.
Yeah. Sure, not a problem at all. Yeah, so the Microsoft Teams user interface or user experience is really makes it seamless. So when you're ready to move to Teams, we have an attendant console for you to use. And as Paul said, it's not just a user. It is a user interface, but it's also integrating Teams functionality. So bringing in Teams groups of contacts so that you can transfer calls to them, and obviously the ability to transfer calls to a Teams user or a Skype for Business user. So really the communication is, if you need a Microsoft Teams operator console, a Tenant console, we have one. It's included in the licenses that you already purchased. So it's not, worrying about, okay, so do we buy Skype for Business, a Tenant console, or a Teams one? If you buy a license, this works either way. And one last thing, it is dependent on the Skype to Teams interrupt, which is on the roadmap, and I think it is for 2008 calendar year H2. So it's dependent on that interrupt between Skype for Business and Teams at the moment. So Wendell, anything more that you would want to add on top of that?
Nope, I think that's right. But just reiterating that if you have licenses or are planning to purchase licenses now and don't know what's going to happen with Teams in the future, your investment is protected here because this will move along with you whenever that becomes a viable option. At this point, very few people are moving to Teams as their phone system, but Microsoft has made it clear that eventually, and I was just at a meeting up in Microsoft building in Times Square yesterday, and they were going over some of this, and they're saying eventually as in years out, but eventually Teams is going to be taking over, and we need to be aware of that. And I should add a note on that. Teams will be taking over Office 365. They reiterated again that Skype for Business server is not going anywhere, not going away in the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There is vNext, Skype for Business Server 2019 has already been announced at Ignite, or was it Inspire? I'm getting my not sure if I
think that was Ignite.
Yeah,
Ignite, okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but Server 2019 has been announced. Features that are going to go into that have been announced. So on-premise server is coming, next version, and when at your leisure, when you're ready, you can move to Teams. So,
Paul, one other thing I would like to see shown off there is the contact designer.
Yes.
So we often got requests for on the contact. They wanted different information, wanted different buttons, wanted different things on there. Paul, show them how we've accommodated that each person can have what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. So right here, you notice these buttons that I was using earlier, sending a call through to someone, sending it to their voicemail, to their mobile phone. We have the email callback reminder. We have a button there to open a chat window. This list of buttons and what we want to have visible and hidden is going to vary based on company and based on environment. So with the latest edition, we have built in the ability to manage those buttons in any way you wanted to. So you see here for my contact list, I have my list of buttons that I want on the current call. I have this smartphone button that will send the call through. I have the voicemail, the mobile, the callback message, and the instant message. But let's say maybe more important than the instant message for my company is the ability to open a calendar. I can delete the instant message. I can now select open calendar as an option and insert that. So now we have, instead of IM, we have a calendar button there. So you can completely manage that list of buttons however you wanted to. And sometimes, for a particular company, maybe it's a light contact center solution where they're very specific with what buttons they want available. Maybe they only want phone, voicemail, and calendar, 3 options. You can set that for your agents and have that show up the way you wanted to. So yeah, that's one of the things. It's very easy. You see, I did that in a matter of seconds there. Very easy just to select the icons that you want to display there and put them on right in front of your agents, so it's easy.
Maybe
for them
just
to complete
before
a
you
transfer.
leave there, Paul, drop the one above that down. Drop that down to see the options there. So on the contact
Yes.
row, you have row 1, 2, and 3. And you can put name, presence, note, all the different information pieces you have on that person. You can put that to
Exactly.
display. Obviously, in most cases, you're going to put name, but then the other
Yeah.
two lines you can customize.
Yeah, sometimes there's special information from the contact that they want to show on a contact, and you can see it at a glance. So
So
yeah.
maybe instead of contact note, let's say maybe we want to do the title. We can insert the title there now, and so it's easy for your receptionist to see at a glance what title they are, what position they're in, and that'll maybe help with transferring.
Yeah, and maybe another a one someone might want to put on its company name. So if you have contacts, if you have multiple company groups, so you can easily see that. But yeah, that's a great.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, that's just a brief look at that, but you can manage that your contacts in any way you want. And one thing maybe I should note, and this is obviously nothing new, but with these settings or any of the settings of Attendant Pro, if you're in a position where you're looking at deploying this to multiple receptionists, perhaps across multiple locations, or maybe there's company policy that you need to be mindful of, any of these settings can be locked down using group policy. So you can manage, you can lay out the Attendant console, you can put the buttons that you want, the settings that you want, maybe call recording needs to be set in a certain way. You can set all that up the way you want it to appear for your agents and lock it down using group policy, and then deploy the product to the end user, all set up and ready to go in the way that it needs to be for your company. So a lot of flexibility for people that are managing maybe a larger group of receptionists. It's easy to manage the product centrally. Even though this is not, it's all client side, there's no server backend piece that needs to be managed with Attendant Pro. Still easy to manage centrally.
So, question: I'd love to hear your feedback. Maybe IM of the 5 main things we went over. So there's a bunch more that are in this new release, but we talked about the IM consult transfer, where you send them an IM and they can just accept it without you doing anything else. We talked about the Teams user interface. We talked about advanced call history, where you can see their CRM, see their recordings, and do a callback reminder and see all your history. We talked about the calendars, seeing the calendars inside Attendant Pro, and the contact designer to make it show up. What's your favorite? Is there any of those that you or your end users say that is something that we can put to use? If so, throw it back in the instant message there. And also, now it is open for Q&A. Either type it into the instant message, or you can also unmute yourself and let us know if you have any questions there. Yes, the call history. Somebody threw it in there that the call history was a missing point. We've got that. Request frequently, and we've listened to that and added that in. One-click consult transfer with the IM transfer. We did not get that request because nobody knew it was possible, but we knew it was possible and added it in there with. And I like that one too. I think people will use that once they see it. Any questions? We're 20 minutes early, but there you go. Matt put up a poll there, or somebody put up a poll. There you can click on what your favorite is rather than having to type it out. And we are at 20 minutes before the hour, so we have some extra time here, but I'm sure nobody will care if we give 15 minutes back if there's no question.
Just like Attendant Pro gives you back time, we like to do it in our webinars as well. Huh?
There you go.
Hey, Wendell, this is Jeff.
Hey, good morning.
How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Just a question, and you probably went over this and I missed it, but when you do a instant message consult and transfer that way, if that user does not respond to that instant message, I'm assuming that call just remains on hold for the person that put that on hold?
Yes. So it just stays on hold for the receptionist, and eventually you can set a timer that it shows a warning on the on hold icon there, whatever the contact. It'll show a warning that this is past your allotted time, and then you can pull it back or send another instant message to see if they just missed the first one, or pull them back and say he's not available and send them to voicemail or whatever. But it'll stay on hold indefinitely. Obviously, if you're on hold for a couple minutes, you're going to hang up, but
Right.
it'll stay on hold. There is no timer on when it'll go off of hold. It's up to the receptionist to see that, hey, he didn't take care of this. I'll do something else with it. But
Right.
Yep.
So that's a
Paul.
visual indicator.
a visual indicator, not an audible
Okay.
indicator. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But-
So what it does, and Paul didn't. I don't know if he really emphasized this a lot, but I think, what is it? It's yellow and it's waiting inside the. Like if you said you only want them to wait a minute, it'll be yellow until that passes. Then it turns to a red exclamation mark visually.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
if they accept it, then it turns green. So there's kind of color indicators to let you know if it fell out. So if there's a red exclamation mark, it means that it was waiting longer than our company wants people to wait, and that they should take it back and do something else with it.
Another interesting thing that we did not specifically note in the demo there is that if the person you're trying to transfer to IM's back, what do they want? And then you send back, they were talking about such and such a deal. That does not cancel out. They can still just press 0, 1, or 2 to accept or reject that call even after IM conversation. So while the receptionist is on to the next call, they can be IMing about that last call and saying he wanted this and let it, and then they can still answer it from there. So it really allows the call flow to be flexible. And then it doesn't have a certain time. If you just transfer to somebody, it rings out in 20 seconds and then goes to voicemail. Where if you put it on hold, it allows them to wait a minute while they wrap up another call and then take the call or something like that. It gives them a little bit of extra time to do that. Other questions? Does that answer what you needed there, Jeff?
It does. Yeah. Thank you.
And maybe another question for you, Jeff. Would you think it would be important to have an audio indicator?
For us, it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
If that's possible, we would use that.
Interesting. That's good feedback. That is
Because
excellent.
I know sometimes, depending on the user, they can maybe bury their application underneath what they're working on and kind of
Yep.
get on to what they're doing, and they're like,
Yeah.
a couple minutes rolls by before you know, and you're like, oh shucks, there's that call still hanging out there.
The other
Absolutely.
thing that might be that along those same lines is you could also, correct me if I'm wrong here, Matt, but I would think it would be fairly easy to simply have it, even if there's no audio reminder, you could have it grab focus when it times out. So if you have it set to a 1 minute hold time before timing out or giving that red exclamation point, you could also have it grab focus of a Tenant Pro at that point as well.
Yeah, that would be another visual. It seems like there is, so for warnings, there's kind of two classes of warnings. One is audio and one is visual. And with the Tenant Pro, thinking of someone kind of dedicated to doing the attendant console position, we're thinking more visual so it doesn't get too noisy. But I could see the scenario that the audio warnings. So one of the things, Jeff, we're doing is kind of building in a kind of a warning alert system, and we're focusing on visual, but I can see the scenario of audio as well. So good feedback.
The other example, a receptionist in our environment, answers calls, and they may step away from their desk to go, copy some papers for a minute or two. And, that same scenario, they're at the copier and they hear this little beep in their ear. They're like, oh, yeah, right. I put that guy on hold, and I should, get back to that because he's hanging out there. So, for us, it would we would utilize something like that.
Great feedback, and I think it's valid. Thank you.
Just looking at some of the questions there, I think that most of the IM questions have been answered, but if we did not, just throw it in again or unmute yourself. And
If someone asks about if the new version will automatically replace the old one, it does. So when you have an old version of a Tenant Pro, you download the new one, it replaces it, but it does keep the configuration file. So settings that you may have set up, visual settings, different settings that you have set up in a Tenant Pro, it'll automatically save them across to the new version. So you don't need to reset up everything.
Okay, I'm going to just go through a few other things from Landis technologies that might be helpful to you, and then we'll come back to questions again, so don't throw them out there. But a few resources we have out there that a lot of you may have known about. So Matt wrote the book on how to set up Link Server 2013, and then of course Skype for Business as well when that came out. We just found out recently that for some time, Microsoft was using that book to train internal employees. One of the guys that we're working with said, "Oh yeah, when I started at Microsoft, they just gave me that and told me to work through that book." Skype for Business user tips and tricks. These are both free books. These are all free PDFs downloaded. Who can federate tool? So if you wonder who in the world you could federate with that you aren't currently federated with, you can do that. The Who Can Federate tool and the Worldwide Federation Directory help you with that. We also have a set for util server, which allows administrators to make changes in mass using PowerShell to your Skype for Business environment. So changing call forwarding settings, changing delegates, changing groups. There's a bunch of other stuff it does that we have that. We also have a call recording solution that is standalone, separate from the recording that is in a Attendant Pro already. It's the same technology as a separate client. And we are continually developing. We got some more stuff coming down soon that we're continually developing things that solve problems that people at Skype for Business have. So Attendant Pro was the one that was a real acute need. People needed an attendant console. We filled that need, and now we're going on to some other stuff as well that we have coming out soon. So any other questions on the Attendant Pro or the new features coming up here?
Maybe one thing that I will say, I think the poll went away, but maybe some people want to know what the kind of popular things were. Number one by a long shot is the IM Consult Transfer / Private Call Park. And ranked as next, it looks like they're tying, is Advanced Call History and being the ability to configure contacts. So, yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, we would be more than happy to set up a demo specifically for your company or for your environment there. So if you wanted to see a more in-depth look at Attendant Pro, not just the new features, but the workings, the ins and outs of Attendant Pro, feel free to shoot me an email. We can get you on the calendar, and we can do a similar type screen share like you're seeing here, except just with your people and make sure all your questions are answered. And along those same lines, test license are also available to anyone who wants to give it a spin in their own environment there.
So it looks like we have a few minutes left here. Just in the next 10 minutes, you can gladly go. We have videos and trials and stuff online there. And think about if you could make your end users more efficient and happier, how much would that be worth each day? If you could buy a coffee that would do that, everybody would go do it. And here you can do that with Attendant Pro. So just an idea. Last call for questions. Anything else that you want to say, wrapping up here, Matt or Paul?
I think
I'm sorry.
good.
Go ahead.
That's Ben from Germany. One question. Where we can receive the latest version of the Attendant Pro console?
Let me see if I can put that.
I'll get it for you, Wendell.
Yeah. Maybe throw a link to the download page that you can get the latest version. We have two options there. One is a click once installer, which allows people to do it without admin rights, but they just install it in their own profile. Or we have the MSI, which can be installed on the PC or pushed out using whatever management tool you do there. So that is the latest. That is the latest. The article about the latest features there. And does that have a link to the download page in there, Matt?
Yes, right at the top there'll be a link that you can just click on to get the latest update.
Great.
Right at the beginning of the article, there is a link that says download MSI installer here. So yeah.
Good.
And there was another question about recording. The same URL that you joined this meeting, shortly after the meeting, you can use that same URL to actually view the recording. So.
Okay. Thanks for your time and attendance, and we'll give you 10 minutes back in your day and talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.